Hello everyone. Before we dive into tonight's accounts, I have a small request. If you find yourself looking over your shoulder or feeling that chill down your spine while listening, please hit the like button and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel and ensures that these stories keep coming your way. I also want to hear from you. Drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're watching from and exactly what time it is for you. I didn't grow up off-grid by choice. It was just how we lived. My parents bought 40 acres of land in the hill country of eastern Oklahoma when I was 3 years old and built the house themselves over the course of about 2 years. No city water, no grid power, a well and a solar setup and a propane backup for the winters. The nearest neighbor was just over a mile down the dirt road, and we saw them maybe 4 or 5 times a year. That was normal to me. I didn't know anything different until I started school and realized most kids went home to subdivisions. My father was a particular kind of man. Ex-military, practical, not much for sentiment, and absolutely committed to the idea that his kids needed to be comfortable with discomfort. He had a whole philosophy around it that he would explain at length if you gave him the opening. But the short version was that he believed most people were soft because nothing had ever tested them, and he wasn't going to let that happen to his children. So from the time I was small, he had this habit of testing us in small ways. Nothing harmful. Just jump out from behind a door, tap on a window at night, hide behind the truck, and grab an ankle when you walked past. The kind of thing that sounds cruel in a summary, but was delivered with a laugh and a follow-up lecture about situational awareness and not letting your guard down. By the time I was 17, I'd been startled so many times by my father that my baseline response to unexpected things had changed. I didn't scream, I didn't freeze. I turned toward whatever it was and assessed it. He'd trained me to do that, whether he knew it or not. I had gotten my license about 2 months before this happened. Having a truck and being able to drive myself was a significant upgrade in life quality when you live 40 acres from the end of a dirt road, and I was using it as much as I could justify. That particular night, I'd been over at a friend's place about 20 miles away and hadn't left until later than I planned. By the time I pulled down our road and came through the gate, it was well past 10, which wasn't a problem, but was later than I usually got home. Our driveway comes in from the east and sweeps around in a loose arc before ending near the back of the house, to the left of where I usually parked. Maybe 100 feet out, the cleared land gives way to a dense section of post oak and cedar that runs along the property's western edge. My father had never cleared it and had no plans to. He liked having the visual barrier between our land and whatever was beyond the fence line. It was old growth, thick, dark at night, the kind of tree coverage that produced complete blackness the moment you were more than a few feet into it. I parked the truck and killed the headlights and got out. The night was clear and the property was quiet, the way it gets out there. Not silent. The insects and the frogs were going, but no human sound, no artificial light, except the porch lamp my mother always left on. I had taken maybe 5 steps toward the house when something hit me in the shoulder. A stick, about a foot long, not thrown hard, but thrown accurately enough to find me in the dark from 100 feet away. I picked it up and looked toward the tree line. Couldn't see anything in there, just the dark mass of the trees. My first thought was my father. It was absolutely the kind of thing he would do. Wait in the trees while I pulled in. Let me get out and get comfortable. Then throw something. Classic. I tossed the stick back toward the tree line and called out for him to show himself. The stick came back immediately. I mean immediately. No pause, no laugh, no voice. Just the stick back in my direction within 2 or 3 seconds of me throwing it in, which was fast, but he was fast. I picked it up again, said, "Hey," as I threw it back, making it clear I knew it was him and wasn't going to perform the startled reaction he was looking for. The stick came back again, and this time a voice came with it. One word: welcome. I want to try to describe what was wrong with that voice, because it's the part I've never been able to shake, and it's hard to put into words without sounding like I'm exaggerating for effect. It wasn't a stranger's voice exactly. It had a quality that I almost recognized. The way something can sit right at the edge of familiar without crossing over. But it was wrong in a way that my body registered before my brain did. Too flat, too even. Like the word had been produced rather than spoken. Like something that had heard the word used and was returning it without understanding what it meant. I stood there for a second, holding nothing, because I hadn't picked up another stick. Then I decided I was done. I said, "I'm going inside and going to bed. Hope you had a good laugh." The same thing I always said when my father's pranks ran their course. I said it in the direction of the tree line, and I walked to the house and opened the door and stepped inside. My father was in his recliner, the one he always sat in to wait up when I came home late. He had a book in his lap and a cup of coffee on the side table, and he looked up when I came in with the expression of a man who has been sitting in a chair for a while and is glad someone finally came home. I asked him how long he'd been sitting there. He said since about 9. Said he'd heard the truck come down the road and had been waiting for me to come inside. I asked him if he'd been outside at any point in the last hour. He said no. Said it was too cold to be sitting outside, and he wasn't as young as he used to be. I stood in the doorway between the front room and the hall, and I did not say anything for a moment. My father looked at my face, and his expression changed slightly. Not alarmed, but attentive in the way he got when he was assessing something. He asked if everything was all right. I told him something had thrown a stick at me from the tree line when I got out of the truck. He set his book down, asked me to walk him through it exactly, which I did. He listened the whole way through without interrupting, which was not his usual style. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment, and then he went and got his coat and his flashlight and walked the property line along that western tree line for about 20 minutes. He came back in and didn't say much, just said the ground was soft from the rain earlier in the week, and there were no prints along the fence line that he could find. Then he told me to make sure the gate was locked, which I had done on my way in, and to get some sleep. I've been off-grid on my property in the hill country of southern Missouri for going on 9 years. 43 acres, mostly hardwood forest with a cleared area around the house and a meadow that runs down to a creek at the southern end. I built the place myself over about 3 years, and I know every inch of it. The surrounding area has a history that the older locals will tell you about, if you ask. There's a ridge on the eastern edge of my property that the county maps call Garrison Ridge, but that everyone around here just calls the Hollow. The name comes from something that happened there a long time ago, the kind of local history that gets passed down in fragments, and no one can fully verify, but that everyone seems to know a version of. I never put much stock in local folklore. I'm a practical person. I moved out here to be left alone and to build something with my hands and to live quietly. And for 9 years, that's exactly what I've done. I have 4 dogs. A Kangal Shepherd that I got as a livestock guardian when I first moved in, a blue heeler I've had for 6 years, a mixed breed that showed up on the property one winter and never left, and a large black lab cross that belongs to my daughter but lives with me half the year. They are not quiet animals. Between the 4 of them, there is always something being reacted to. Deer at the fence line, coyotes in the lower meadow, the occasional vehicle on the county road half a mile out. I've learned to read which bark is which. The Kangal has a specific register for things she considers genuine threats, and I have never once ignored it. None of them were making any sound at all when this happened. That's the first thing I want you to understand. It was a Wednesday night in late October, past midnight, clear sky, temperature in the low 50s. I do a lot of my property walking at night. I've always preferred it, the way the land feels different after dark, the way your other senses come online when the visual noise drops out. I took the dogs and walked the eastern trail that runs up the slope toward Garrison Ridge, a route I've done probably 200 times. The dogs were loose ahead of me, the way they always are, ranging out and coming back, checking things along the trail edge. We were maybe a third of the way up the ridge slope when all 4 of them stopped, not slowed down, not looked at something and moved on. Stopped completely, all 4 facing the same direction. Up the slope, toward the top of the ridge, where the trail crests before dropping down the other side. The Kangal was in front, and she had gone into that particular stillness. That means she has identified something and is deciding what to do about it. I stopped behind them and looked up the slope. Above the ridge line, low enough that it was just clearing the top of the tree canopy, there was a light. Reddish, dim, not sharp-edged the way a flashlight or a vehicle light is sharp-edged, more diffuse than that. My first red was a vehicle on the other side of the ridge, a tail light or running light glow coming over the crest, which would explain the color and the low position. The road on the far side of the ridge isn't a main road, but it gets occasional use. That explanation lasted about 15 seconds. The light was moving, not in a direction that matched a vehicle on a road, not tracking horizontally the way a moving vehicle would move. It was shifting slowly in a way that didn't correspond to any motion a vehicle makes. And it had a quality to it that I'm going to struggle to describe accurately. It moved the way something moves when it is aware of its environment, deliberately, making small adjustments. The color was a deep reddish tone that sat somewhere between amber and burgundy, and it seemed to have depth to it. like it wasn't a flat source, but something that moved within itself. I was still processing this when all 4 dogs turned and ran. Not retreated, not backed away, ran. Full speed back down the trail toward the house, the Kangal in the lead, and the others right behind her. No sound from any of them, which was the strangest part. 4 dogs running at full speed in complete silence. I went with them. I'm not going to pretend I made a considered decision. My body went with them, and my brain caught up about 30 seconds later, somewhere down the trail. They didn't stop at the house. They went past the porch and around to the fire pit, where I'd had a fire going earlier that evening, the coals still orange and putting out heat. They positioned themselves on the far side of the fire pit from the direction we'd come, all 4 of them, and stood there, looking back toward the ridge. I came around and stood with them and looked back toward the tree line at the edge of the meadow. The light was there. It had followed us. Not quickly, not urgently. It was sitting just above the canopy at the meadow's eastern edge, maybe 200 feet from where we were standing at the fire pit. Same color, same quality of movement within itself. The same sense of something that was aware of us and was making a choice about what to do with that awareness. It sat there above the tree canopy, and we stood at the fire, and it watched us, and we watched it. The dogs didn't bark. They didn't move. The Kangal was doing something I had never seen her do in 6 years. She was pressing against my leg, which she does not do. She is not that kind of dog. We stood there for what I estimated at around 20 minutes, though I wasn't checking my phone and my sense of time was not reliable. The light didn't come closer. It didn't make any sound. It didn't do anything except exist there above the tree canopy and watch. Then it moved. Slowly, back in the direction of the ridge, the same unhurried quality it had in every other movement it made. It cleared the meadow edge and moved back into the forest, above the canopy level, and kept going until I couldn't see it anymore through the trees. I stood at the fire pit for a while after it was gone. The Kangal stopped pressing against my leg and went and lay down near the fire. The others settled around her. I went inside and made coffee and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. My husband and I have been off-grid for 6 years on a piece of land in the hill country of central Arkansas. 52 acres, mostly pine and hardwood mix, with a cleared area around the house and a garden plot that runs along the south side of the property. We built everything ourselves: the house, the outbuildings, the solar array, the rainwater collection system. It took 4 years from the first foundation pour to the point where we felt like we were actually living rather than constantly building. And by the time we got there, we knew this land the way you know something you've put that much of yourself into. The access road is the one vulnerability we've always been aware of. It runs 2 miles from the county road to our property, unpaved, single lane, through forest the whole way. There's a gate at the county road end that we keep locked, but a determined person could go around it through the tree line without much difficulty, and we've always known that. When we first moved in, we talked a lot about security, not in a paranoid way, just practically. We're 2 people on a remote property, and if something goes wrong out here, the response time from any kind of help is going to be significant. You think about that, you plan around it. About 18 months after we moved in, we put up a motion-activated trail camera at the midpoint of the access road. Solar-powered, triggered by movement, time-stamped, stores footage to a card we check every few days. We positioned it to cover a wide angle of the road in both directions from the mounting point. The primary purpose was wildlife monitoring. We get deer, turkey, the occasional black bear moving through, and my husband wanted a record of what was using the road. Over the first 2 years, it gave us exactly that: deer mostly, raccoons at night, our own vehicle going in and out. A fox once that the dogs never caught wind of, nothing unusual, nothing that flagged anything. Last November, my husband went to his brother's place in Tennessee for 10 days. Family thing, planned for months, nothing unusual about it. I've spent time alone on the property before, and it doesn't bother me. I have the dogs, 2 of them, both large, and I have the gate locked, and I have what I need. The first 2 nights were completely normal. The 3rd night, the motion light we'd mounted near the house gate triggered twice around midnight. I heard it from the bedroom. It's wired to a soft chime inside the house, and checked the window. Deer at the inner fence, which happens regularly. I went back to sleep. The camera card covers 72 hours before it cycles. I check it every few days, unless something prompts me to look sooner. 4 days into my husband's trip, I pulled the card and went through the footage on my laptop at the kitchen table with my morning coffee. The first thing I noticed was the trigger count. The camera had activated 11 times in the 72-hour window, which was on the higher end but not unusual for that time of year when the deer are moving more. I went through the triggers in sequence. Deer, deer, our truck going out, our truck coming back in, deer, raccoon, deer. The 8th trigger was at 2:41 in the morning. A person walking up the road toward the house. I watched it 3 times before I did anything else. The footage is black and white, infrared, the way trail camera footage looks at night. The figure is clear enough. Adult, average build from what I could tell, moving at a steady walking pace up the center of the road in the direction of the house. Not hurrying, not looking around, just walking, no bag, nothing visible in either hand. The camera covers about 60 feet of road, and the figure walks through the full frame in about 12 seconds, and then is gone from view on the house side of the frame. I sat at the kitchen table for a while after that. The camera only covers that one section of road. What happened before the figure entered the frame, and what happened after they left it? I don't know. I don't know if they came through the gate at the county road end or went around it through the trees. I don't know how long they had been on the property before they reached that section of road. I don't know if they reached the house. I don't know when they left. I went back through the remaining triggers. The 9th was a deer at 4:15. The 10th was our truck, me leaving the property the following morning. The 11th was our truck coming back in. Nothing on the road again after the figure. Not going up, not coming back down. I walked the property that afternoon with both dogs. I checked the house perimeter, the outbuildings, the garden plot on the south side. The dogs were not alarmed by anything, which I took as a reasonable indicator that there was no one on the property currently. I checked the gate at the county road end. Locked, no visible signs of it having been forced, the chain intact. The ground around the garden had been soft from rain earlier in the week. I found boot prints in the mud along the south garden fence line. 2 sets of them, parallel, like someone had walked the fence line and then walked back. The prints were not mine, wrong size, wrong tread pattern. My husband's boots were in the mudroom where he'd left them. The prints were fresher than the rain, which meant they'd been made after the last rainfall, 2 days before. I called my husband that evening and told him what I'd found. He listened through without interrupting, which is not his usual approach, and then asked if I wanted him to come home early. I told him I didn't know. We talked for a while, and then I told him to finish his trip and come home on schedule. He got back 4 days later. We went over the footage together, and then walked the garden fence line where I'd found the prints. The rain had been through again since I'd found them, and they were softer now, but still visible enough to see. He looked at them for a long time without saying anything. Then he said he was going to look into upgrading the gate at the county road end and adding a second camera further down the road toward the house side. I went inside and started dinner.